Welcome to the deep dive. If you're looking for the shortcut to being well-informed well, we've got you covered. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most celebrated ingredients out there, garlic. It's been hailed forever, it seems, as this powerhouse, good for everything from boosting your immune system to helping with cholesterol, blood pressure, even clots.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It really does earn that superfood title in many ways. But, and this is a big but, there's a huge catch. And that's really the focus of our source material today. The research we looked at, it gives the exact secret, really, to unlocking garlic's actual medicinal power. We're talking about the difference between, garlic is just a nice flavor and garlic as a powerful agent against things like high cholesterol, high blood pressure, and those dangerous blood clots.
And that's exactly our mission for this deep dive, isn't it? Because these benefits, they aren't just automatic. They depend on a very specific chemical process that, honestly, most people probably skip entirely without realizing it. If you don't know how much to eat, and maybe even more importantly, how to activate it first, you're basically leaving the main health effects, well, on the cutting board. So let's unpack the science behind maximizing this humble little clove right now.
Okay, so to really get it, we need to look at the molecule that's doing all the heavy lifting, allicin. It's a sulfur derivative, and it's the chemical powerhouse delivering all those amazing health effects people talk about.
Right, Allison. But here's the first really crucial point, the big insight for me. Raw, whole garlic, just sitting there, doesn't actually contain allicin. I think that might surprise a lot of people.
It absolutely does, yeah. What it has is a precursor, a substance called allium. Think of it like a built-in defense mechanism for the plant. And stored separately, right next door in the garlic clove, is another piece of the puzzle, an enzyme called allinase.
Okay, so you got allin here, allinase there.
Exactly. And for the beneficial allicin to actually form, the allium has to combine with the allanase. They're neighbors, like you said, but the walls between them need to come down first.
Okay, so how do we get these two neighbors together? How do we kickstart this allicin production? The source material is super specific here. It says we need physical action. You have to actually damage the garlic, right? Like cut, crush, mince, or even just chew it really well. That action breaks down the cell walls inside, letting the allin and the allanase finally mix and react.
Yes, and this is exactly where the practical side gets a bit tricky.
Yeah.
Because knowing that leads to two, let's say, non-negotiable steps that most people miss. And missing them kind of neutralizes the whole process. The first one is heat. The garlic really must be eaten raw.
Raw. Okay.
Yeah. If you heat it up like sautéing it, roasting it, that heat destroys the sensitive allicin that's just been formed. It basically wipes out the beneficial effects we're talking about.
Wow. Okay. That's huge. So no cooked garlic for these benefits. And the second step, you said there were two. This one seems really interesting and probably the one people skip most often.
Absolutely. After you cut or crush it, you have to
wait.
Wait.
Yeah.
Just wait. The chemical reaction, it needs a little time to fully happen. The source recommends waiting somewhere between 5 to 10 minutes after you've damaged the garlic. That allows the allicin to properly form before you eat it. If you chop it and throw it straight into your salad or whatever.
You only get partial benefits.
Exactly. Or maybe very little. That little window of patience, just 5 or 10 minutes. That's the moment you literally transform a simple kitchen spice into, well, a cardiovascular superfood.
Okay, so assuming we do it right, crush it, wait 10 minutes, eat it raw. Where do we see the most proven results? Let's start with the heart and circulation. That seems to be where the evidence is really solid. We have to talk cholesterol.
Right. Specifically, we're talking about targeting LDL, which most people know is the bad cholesterol. That's the sticky stuff that builds up and creates plaques. They're called atheroma plaques inside your arteries. And those plaques, well, they're what lead to the really bad stuff like heart attacks and strokes.
So what kind of reduction are we actually talking about? What do the numbers in the source material show? Because, people are looking for dietary changes that can genuinely move the needle.
The evidence is actually quite consistent here. Studies suggest that consuming this activated garlic can decrease total cholesterol by roughly 5% to 15%. And the main target is that problematic LDL cholesterol. That 5 to 15% drop, I mean, that's significant enough to potentially make a real difference over time.
Interesting. And what about existing plaque? Does it help get rid of that too?
Well, the science is still developing on whether it actually shrinks existing plaques. Some smaller studies suggest it might, but the evidence isn't quite as strong there. But the logic makes sense, right? If you reduce the fuel for the plaque, the LDL, You at least help stabilize things and prevent more buildup.
Okay, wait. So it's not just about managing the cholesterol levels themselves. The sources suggest it's also actively fighting against blockages forming, right? This is where it gets really compelling for me. Fighting clots and thrombosis.
Exactly. It essentially acts like a mild, natural blood thinner. What garlic does is decrease platelet aggregation. Now, platelets are the cells that normally help form scabs when you cut yourself. But inside your body, if they get too sticky and clump together too much,
They form clots.
precisely, they create these dense groups that become clots or thrombi. And those clots are the direct cause of many strokes, acute cerebrovascular accidents, or ACVs. Activated garlic seems to discourage this sticky behavior, making it harder for those dangerous internal clots to form. It's like a preventative measure for your internal plumbing getting backed up.
That's a pretty powerful effect for, a simple kitchen staple. And speaking of regulating the internal plumbing, what about blood pressure? Hypertension is just such a massive health issue globally.
Yeah, we see similar sort of moderating effects there too, with high blood pressure, hypertension. It constantly damages your arteries over time. It makes the body more susceptible to those plaques and clots we were just discussing. Adding activated garlic daily has been shown in studies to help moderate these pressures.
Do we have any specific numbers on the kind of drop people might expect?
We do, actually. For people who already have high blood pressure, the studies suggest a consistent, measurable decrease. We're talking a drop of about 5 to 8 points in systolic pressure. That's the top number.
Right.
And about 4 to 5 points in diastolic pressure, the bottom number. So it can be a really effective complement to a broader treatment plan.
Okay, this all sounds incredibly powerful, but we absolutely have to include the critical warnings laid out in the source material, especially regarding medications. If garlic is acting like a natural anti-clotting agent, there must be potential interactions, right?
Absolutely. And this requires a serious note of caution. If you are currently taking prescription blood thinners anticoagulants, the common ones are warfarin or acinocumarol activated garlic can actually amplify their effect. This interaction could be dangerous, potentially leading to excessive bleeding. So you must talk to your doctor before adding regular activated garlic to your diet if you're on these meds. The same goes before any major surgery you need to let your doctor know, as it affects how your blood clots.
And probably the most important point regarding blood pressure meds. Activated garlic is not a replacement. That's crucial. Never, ever stop or replace a prescribed medication with garlic alone. It can be a beneficial addition to your treatment, but always follow your doctor's orders for prescribed medicine.
Absolutely critical context. Okay, so shifting focus a bit now. Let's talk about some of the other benefits, maybe some that are a bit more surprising beyond just heart health. The sources also spend a good amount of time looking at cancer prevention.
I've definitely heard about garlic and general health, but I wasn't aware the cancer link was particularly strong for certain types. What do the sources say about the mechanism there?
Well, there's some pretty favorable epidemiological evidence looking at large populations that plants in the Allium family. So that includes garlic, but also onions, leeks, chives.
Ah, the whole family.
Right. That family of plants seems to help prevent some very common cancers, particularly colon and intestinal cancers, which unfortunately become more frequent as we get older.
So it's potentially a dietary protective measure for gut health in that sense.
Precisely. The evidence for preventing stomach cancer is a bit less conclusive, according to the sources. But even beyond specific cancers, garlic's role as a strong antioxidant is important here. Antioxidants help neutralize those damaging free radicals.
Right, the things that cause inflammation.
Exactly. The chronic inflammation that's linked not just to cancer, but also back to hypertension and clots. It really is all interconnected in the body.
Okay, and what about the immune system? That's probably the most common claim people make for garlic. Did the evidence hold up for fighting off things like colds or the flu in humans?
So in the lab, in petri dishes and in animal studies, yes, garlic looks fantastic. It seemed to reinforce the immune system against all sorts of things: bacteria, viruses, parasites, even fungi. It's been studied quite a bit for illnesses like the common cold, the flu, and even during specific viral outbreaks.
So why isn't it then universally recommended as a specific treatment if it looks so good in the lab?
This is where that scientific nuance really matters. The sources are careful to stress the lack of fully conclusive human clinical evidence for treating active illnesses. While it performs beautifully in controlled lab settings, studies looking at actual human illnesses have often been, well, the word used was confusing. They showed mixed results, or sometimes even zero therapeutic effect compared to a placebo.
Huh. So it might help generally, but don't rely on it to cure your cold.
Kind of. Adding raw activated garlic is generally seen as a low-risk dietary addition, potentially supportive. But the sources state there isn't enough solid human evidence yet to recommend it as a specific treatment for acute viral illnesses like the flu or COVID. Think of it as a potential boost, maybe, but not a guaranteed bullet.
That makes sense. Now, the detox potential, I found this part really compelling, maybe the least known benefit. Let's talk about that heavy metal study you mentioned.
Yes, this was a remarkable anecdote highlighted in the material. There was a study involving car battery workers. These workers, unfortunately, often suffer from lead exposure from handling the batteries, and lead is extremely toxic. So in this study, workers who consumed activated garlic regularly showed a really dramatic reduction in their blood lead levels, about 20% over just 3 to 4 weeks.
Wow, a 20% reduction is huge in toxicology terms. That suggests garlic has some kind of powerful chelating ability, like it binds to heavy metals and helps escort them out of the body.
Exactly. That's the implication. It highlights that those potent sulfur compounds in allicin aren't just tackling internal issues like cholesterol. They might be actively helping the body cleanse itself of certain external environmental toxins too.
Okay, so let's bring this all together with the practical side. We know we need to cut or crush it, wait 5 to 10 minutes. How much should we actually aim to consume daily for these effects?
Right, the practicalities. Well, first, just a quick nutritional snapshot. Even in small amounts, garlic is a decent source of things like potassium, some B vitamins, vitamin C, and manganese. It really does punch above its weight nutritionally for such a small thing.
Good point. And the daily target amount.
For consistent health benefits, the general recommendation based on the studies is around 1 to 2 cloves per day. That usually translates to about 4 to 6 grams of garlic. And just to hammer it home, that must be consumed raw after being cut or crushed, and crucially, after that 5–10 minute wait to activate the allicin.
Okay. What are the best ways to eat it raw without, just chewing a raw clove, which might be intense, and without destroying the allicin with heat?
Yeah, chewing a raw clove straight isn't for everyone. Think of using it like a finishing garnish or seasoning, added at the very end of preparation. Simple examples would be mixing it into salad dressings, stirring it into guacamole or salsa after blending, or sprinkling it over cooked meats or vegetables right after they come off the heat, just before serving. That way you avoid that heat destruction. As for commercial powders or garlic oil, the sources suggest being cautious, only if they're pure and don't have harmful additives. But honestly, the raw activated clove you prepare yourself is the safest, most reliable bet to ensure you're actually getting the allicin.
Okay, and we absolutely have to address a major misconception here. The timing. I hear this all the time, that garlic should be eaten first thing in the morning on an empty stomach.
Yes, the inayunas idea. That is strongly not recommended by the source material we reviewed. Consuming activated garlic, especially on an empty stomach, significantly increases the likelihood of negative side effects, things like nausea, maybe some abdominal pain, or general stomach upset. The clear recommendation is always to consume it alongside other food, as part of a meal, never alone on an empty stomach.
Good to clarify. Finally, let's quickly cover the main side effects, starting with the most obvious one, halitosis, or bad breath. Activated allicin is, well, it's quite pungent.
It is. That's the downside of those powerful sulfur compounds, unfortunately. But there are ways to manage it. The recommendations are pretty practical. Maybe start with smaller amounts, like just 1 clove. Practice good oral hygiene, brushing well using mouthwash.
Yeah.
And importantly, always eat the garlic accompanied by other food. Fats, like olive oil or eating it with meat, seem to help temper the odor somewhat.
Makes sense. And the other potential issue, allergies.
Yes, we have to mention that. While not super common, severe allergic reactions to garlic have been described. Symptoms could include things like itching, skin redness, maybe sneezing shortly after eating it. If you experience anything like that, obviously stop eating it immediately and consult a doctor. So maybe to synthesize the absolute key takeaway for everyone listening, the big difference between garlic just being a flavor enhancer in your cooking and garlic acting as a potent therapeutic agent. It all hinges on that activation process. That simple, deliberate pause, that 5 to 10 minute wait after you crush or chop it, that's where you manufacture the allicin. That's what unlocks the vast majority of these health benefits we've been discussing.
It really is incredible that such a simple habit, just waiting a few minutes, can completely change the utility of an ingredient. The source mentioned that studies link garlic to detoxifying lead, but it also said other heavy metals and other substances. That got me thinking, given all the broad health impacts we discuss, stabilizing circulation, fighting inflammation, that potential anti-cancer link, What other common environmental pollutants might this simple kitchen staple be quietly helping our bodies combat every day? That's definitely something fascinating to maybe explore further on your own.
That is indeed a provocative question to ponder.
Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the powerful secrets of garlic activation. We hope you feel much more informed now and maybe ready to maximize the benefits of this humble yet clearly mighty clove.